Today, we'll be diving into the new cozy farming game, Fields of Mistria, and recreate some of the delicious looking foods that you can unlock throughout the game. Fields of Mistria was recently released in early access, and it's safe to say that I'm obsessed. You play as the new farmer in town who's tasked with rebuilding Mistria after an earthquake, and along the way you unearth mysteries and get to know the charming villagers. I mean, look how charming. If you know, you know, but back to the food. I'm in love with the role of food and cooking in this game and how communal it feels. As the new guy in town, you learn recipes from selling your crops and helping out your neighbors. There's even a cooking lesson with the townspeople, and not only does food help to restore the typical health and stamina, but the thing I love most is that each villager has different food preferences that match their personality, and you can give them those dishes to build your friendships with them. How cute! Okay, that's enough rambling. Get comfy, relax, and let's head over to Mistria. The game opens up with being welcomed to town, where you're gifted a bowl of vegetable soup. It's also the first recipe you're taught to cook, so I thought it would be a fun dish to kick off this video. So first, I grabbed the root vegetables and aromatics and gave those a nice chop. Okay, so I know the in-game recipe only calls for potatoes, tomatoes, and basil, but I don't think that would make a very good, tasty soup. So here I have a few potatoes, an onion, plus a carrot and some garlic. Okay, quick note while I get those cut up. In these videos, to keep them fun, I like to follow the original recipe as close as I can, which means using all of the ingredients, but of course I'll also be adding ingredients here and there to make the dish actually edible, and also substitute things like monster powder and cave mushrooms that don't exist. Okay, back to the soup. To some olive oil over medium heat, I added the onions first, letting them cook for about 5 minutes with some salt and pepper. Then I dumped in the rest of the veg and gave that another 2 to 3 minutes before adding in a can of fire roasted tomatoes along with our flavorings. That's some apple cider vinegar, red pepper flakes, and a bunch of fresh herbs. Dump in the vegetable broth and bring everything to a quick boil, letting the soup simmer on low for 20 minutes. In the background here, I'm just cutting up the rest of the veggies. The very pixelated soup looks like it has some bits of red, green, yellow, and orange floating around. So I have some zucchini, a handful of green beans, and multicolored cherry tomatoes. Here's where you can get really creative with it, or honestly just use up whatever you have lying around the fridge. I think chickpeas, peas, or even kale would be delicious here, but I tossed everything into the pot along with some frozen corn and let that simmer again for a final 10 to 15 minutes. Make sure to taste test, see if it needs more salt, pepper, vinegar, spices, anything like that you like. and I'm serving up mine with these garlicky croutons, which is completely optional. It's not pictured in the game, but I like to enjoy my soup basically as half bread, half soup. But yeah, just like the game says, the soup was so nourishing, filling, and so cozy. I love all of the vibrant colors and all of the different textures and flavors. Definitely a good way to get your veggies in. Another thing that I love about this game is that you don't need to unlock the cooking skill like a lot of the other cozy games. You even start off with a few default recipes, so I thought we'd make a few of those in today's video. And if you guys like this, maybe we can turn it into a little series where I recreate recipes in real life as I unlock them in the game. So yeah, let me know what you potentially think about that. But from these, I may or may not have chosen this one just because I can't resist an excuse to eat fresh, homemade bread. But this will actually pair perfectly with another recipe we're making today. So yeah, we're making bread. To a small saucepan, I'm adding a few spoons of bread flour and milk, cooking that over low heat for a couple of minutes. This paste is what's gonna help make our milk bread super soft, bouncy, and almost cloud-like. Definitely worth the little extra effort. To a large mixing bowl, I'm measuring and combining the remaining flour, sugar, and yeast. Then I'm mixing that together with an egg and the cooled paste from earlier. With a whisk first until it roughly came together, and then I slowly started incorporating the warm milk with my spatula and then my hands for a good 5 to 6 minutes. Now we can add the softened butter about a tablespoon at a time, kneading until it's no longer sticky. And then we're kneading some more until the dough is nice and smooth. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'm letting this dough rest for about 1.5 to 2 hours someplace warm. Once they're doubled in size, I'm cutting the dough into 3 equal-ish pieces. And to give the loaf that iconic so-called mountain shape or Yamagata, I'm rolling each piece into a long rectangle, folding in the sides, and rolling that into a tight log. Place all 3 pieces into a greased loaf pan and let this rise for another 30 minutes. To give the loaf some color, I whisk together an egg wash and I'm brushing the tops with that. And then we can pop that into the oven. Bread turned out so incredibly fluffy. It was so rich and delicious, even on its own, and that's coming from someone who despises untoasted bread. But I had to refrain myself from demolishing this whole thing because we're gonna need some for our next 2 recipes. One of my favorite things to do in game is to just run around and forage all of the seasonal flowers and crops. The town is scattered with so many of them, and I don't know, it's just so much fun stumbling upon them and discovering new ones. And during springtime, wild berries can be found literally everywhere, so I thought we'd make some wild berry jam. For the wild berries, I'm using frozen wild blueberries, but I'm also adding some diced up strawberries to this since the jam is more of a red color in the game. So to a saucepan, add your berries, and we're cooking them on low for 5 minutes. Once the fruit has softened, we can add in a bit of lemon juice along with some sugar. I also ended up adding some more strawberry since the color was a tad bit on the purple side, and I also like chunks in my jam, but I also sprinkled in a bit of pectin powder to help thicken this up into almost like a jelly consistency, but again, that's completely optional. After mixing everything, bring everything to a boil.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh god. Okay.
Then reduce the heat and allow this to simmer for 8 to 10 minutes. This is roughly what it should look like, and yeah, that's the jam done. I could easily eat this jam by the spoonful. That's quite literally what I did after it was completely cooled, but this was so much better than any store-bought stuff. Also, the mix of the wild blueberry and the strawberry was so good. Putting together the last 2 dishes, we can knock off another default recipe and make the jam sandwich. I love gifting these to the kids. I mean, everyone's dialogue in this game is so amazing, but theirs is just so goofy and silly. I love them. But yeah, just like the game's description, this is a sweet sandwich made with fluffy bread and Wildberry Jam. Again, I typically don't like untoasted sandwiches, but this combo of soft and sweet buttery bread with a tart, fruity jam was such a treat. It was honestly kind of like eating a fruit cake. Not fruit cake, a cake with fruit. I don't know, highly recommend. So I wanted to include some type of dessert. Why did I say it like that? Dessert in this video, and luckily I have the recipe for some caramel candy. Caramel, I don't know. Anyways, the recipe calls for milk, so I thought I'd show you my cows. I named them after my 2 cats, and I love them dearly. It actually took me so long to adopt them, the cows, because all of my time and money is spent on either fixing the town or in the mines trying to get gifts for March. So if you have any money-making tips, I'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, to make these sticky, delicious candies, I'm simply adding the sugars into a saucepan along with the corn syrup and cream. Combine and cook this mixture over medium heat, constantly stirring until it reaches 245 degrees. This can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, so yeah, be patient with it. If you don't have a candy thermometer, the trick to seeing if the caramel is ready or not is to take a small amount of it and drop it into a cup of cold water. Very carefully removing it, the caramel should hold its shape but still be pliable, sort of like this. Immediately remove this from the heat and stir in the vanilla, salt, and butter. Here I'm sprinkling some flaky sea salt over the top, and the hard part is letting these set and cool completely before cutting them up, several hours or overnight. To resemble the ones in the game, I'm wrapping each piece in a piece of wax paper. And they turned out so adorable. I kind of feel like one of those old grandmas who always has wrapped caramel candies lying around. But yeah, these caramels were so satisfying to eat. They're super chewy and surprisingly not too sweet. The salt definitely added a nice touch. Very nostalgic. That's all I have for you today, so thank you for spending time with me this week. I've been glued to this game, so I'd love to know if you're also playing. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.